everyone, what's good? I hope everyone's doing alright. Welcome back to my channel, Holy Humanist. I just wanted to record a quick video today on, well, let's say fake news Islamic style. So I'm going to start off with another good old lie that I believed when I was a Muslim. Lo and behold, when I was a Muslim, especially as a Muslim woman, I strongly believed and took solace in the fact that one of the final things the Prophet said in his final message or farewell sermon to his ummah or people was a message in which he professed equality, humanity, and specifically to treat women well. I believed all of it. Now I realize that even the final message that Muhammad delivered in his sermon has been fabricated over time. For starters, what it actually says is treat women well, for they are like domestic animals with you who possess nothing for themselves. Hold up. Domestic animals. Women are like domestic animals. That should be a red flag for anyone, but I'm specifically looking at you feminists. When I was a believing Muslim woman, I remember feeling a huge sense of awe and pride and even comfort at the thought of the Prophet's proclamation of his final message of peace and unity. There was something quite alluring about the Prophet's last words before his death, and fantastical stories such as a tree weeping would follow this incident to make it seem even more deep and sensational than it actually was. Check out this hadith here. So please be careful and don't fall into the same trap that I did as a Muslim when Muslims tell you that Muhammad espoused universal equality and equal rights for women and a perfected religion, because they're probably referring to the same words in the sermon that most Muslims are only privy to, and that's through no fault of their own, including mine when I read the sermon for that first time. I actually found great peace in this version of events when I was a Muslim, and nothing in this final sermon gave me any reason to cast any shadow of doubt on the character of Muhammad or the morals of the Prophet, and specifically of that time. This whitewashed version of the sermon, which I had indeed read as a Muslim, can be found pretty much anywhere and everywhere, but specifically on several Islamic websites themselves, such as islamicfinder.org and islamreligion.com. This version of the sermon that we see on these Islamic websites was actually found in a collection of Muhammad's sermons called Sermons of the Prophet, translated by S.H. Faizi in 2001. Faizi himself acknowledges that the authenticity of these texts are still doubted by the ulema, or the Muslim scholars, in English. This concoction of sermons, if you will, is more than likely just a simple compilation of different hadiths that were attributed to Muhammad. So let's take a look now at the sanitized version that I read as a Muslim and that's still around for Muslims to read, believing these were the final actual verbatim words of the Prophet. Here it is. O people, lend me an attentive ear, for I know not whether after this year I shall ever be amongst you again. Therefore, listen to what I am saying to you very carefully, and take these words to those who could not be present here today. O people, just as you regard this month, this day, this city as sacred, so regard the life and property of every Muslim as a sacred trust. Return the goods entrusted to you to their rightful owners. Hurt no one, so that no one may hurt you. Remember that you will indeed meet your Lord, and that he will indeed reckon your deeds. God has forbidden you to take usury, interest. Therefore, all interest obligation shall henceforth be waived. Your capital, however, is yours to keep. You will neither inflict nor suffer any inequity. God has judged that there shall be no interest, and that all the interest due to Abbas ibn Abdal Muttalib, the Prophet's uncle, shall henceforth be waived. Beware of Satan, for the safety of your religion. He has lost all hope that he will ever be able to lead you astray in big things, so beware of following him in small things. O people, it is true that you have certain rights with regard to your women, but they also have rights over you. Oh, interesting. Remember that you have taken them as your wives only under God's trust and with his permission. If they abide by your right, then to them belongs the right to be fed and clothed in kindness. Why, thank you, Muhammad. Do treat your women well and be kind to them, for they are your partners and committed helpers. And it is your right that they do not make friends with any of whom you do not approve, as well as never to be unchaste. O people, listen to me in earnest. Worship God, say your 5 daily prayers, salah, fast during the months of Ramadan, and give your wealth in zakat. Perform Hajj if you can afford to. All mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor an Arab has any superiority over an Arab. Also, a white has no superiority over a black, nor a black has any superiority over white, except by piety and good action. Learn that every Muslim is a brother to every Muslim, and that the Muslims constitute one brotherhood. Nothing shall be legitimate to a Muslim which belongs to a fellow Muslim unless it was given freely and willingly. Do not, therefore, do injustice to yourself. Remember, one day you will appear before God and answer your deeds. So beware, do not stray from the path of righteousness after I am gone. O people, no prophet or apostle will come after me, and no new faith will be born. Oh, he was definitely wrong about that. Reason well, therefore, O people, and understand words which I convey to you. I leave behind me 2 things, the Quran and my Sunnah, and if you follow these, you will never go astray. Boy, did I believe that at one point in time. All those who listen to me shall pass on my words to others, and those to others again. And may the last ones understand my words better than those who listen to me directly. Be my witness, O God, that I have conveyed your message to your people. Funnily enough, reading this farewell message without the confirmation bias and belief in Islam like clouding my judgment, even this sanitized and manufactured version isn't that great if you think about it. Frankly, it's still a bit of a push to say that it meets the standards of being humanitarian in nature. It still requires women to obey their husbands just as it does in Quran 434. It also only speaks of a brotherhood of Muslims, not a brotherhood of men and a sisterhood of women. As if now we're asking a bit too much. It speaks only for property rights for Muslims, and it forbids all religions that come after Muhammad. And lastly, it also sanctifies the Sunnah in addition to the Quran as the source of Sharia law. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The actual and more authentic farewell sermon is presented in Al-Dabari's History, Volume 9, page 112. Yeah, it was only through independent research that I stumbled upon this. And the reason is because when I was a Muslim, I severely doubted. I literally would not trust any website that was not Islamic in nature. So it makes sense that I never came across this version of the sermon before from Al-Dabari. But now I find it crazy how easily Islamic sources and websites can shamelessly get away with leaving out some of the most authentic versions of their own history. The authentic version of this sermon, or khutbah in Arabic, can also be found almost verbatim in Ibn Ishaq's The Life of Muhammad, and that is on page 651. Okay, so you ready? Let's read the more authentic version of the farewell sermon and see what we're in for. This is as documented in Al-Dabari. O people, listen to my words. I do not know whether I shall ever meet you again in this place after this year. O people, your blood and your property are sacrosanct until you meet your Lord, just as this day and this month of yours are sacred. Surely you will meet your Lord, and he will question you about your deeds. I have already made this known. Let he who has a pledge return it to the one who entrusted him with it. All usury is abolished, but your capital belongs to you. Wrong not, and you shall not be wronged. Allah has decreed that there will be no usury, and the usury of Abbas bin Abd al-Muttalib is abolished. All of it. All bloodshed in the pre-Islamic days is to be left unavenged. The first such claim I revoke is that of Ibn Rabi'a bin al-Harith bin Abd al-Muttalib, who was nursed among the Banu Layth and was slain by the Banu Hudayr. He is the first bloodshed in the pre-Islamic days with which I shall set an example. O people, indeed Satan despairs of ever being worshipped in this land of yours. He will be pleased, however, if he is obeyed in a thing other than that in matters you minimize. So beware of him in your religion, O people. Intercalculating a month is an increase in unbelief, whereby the unbelievers go astray. 1 year they make it profane and hallow it another, in order to agree with the number that Allah has hallowed, and so profane what Allah has hallowed and hallow what Allah has made profane. Time has completed its cycle, and is as it was on the day that Allah created the heavens and the earth. The number of months with Allah is 12. They were in the book of Allah on the day He created the heavens and the earth. 4 of them are sacred, the 3 consecutive months and the Rajab, which is the month of Mudar, which is between Jumada and Sha'ban. Now then, O people, you have a right over your wives, and they have a right over you. You have the right that they should not cause anyone of whom you dislike to tread on your beds, and that they should not commit any open indecency. If they do, then Allah permits you to shut them in separate rooms and to beat them, but not severely. If they abstain from evil, they have the right to their food and clothing in accordance with the custom. Treat women well, for they are like domestic animals with you, and do not possess anything for themselves. You have taken them only as a trust from Allah, and you have made the enjoyment of their persons lawful by the word of Allah. So understand and listen to my words. O people, I have conveyed the message and have left you with something which, if you hold fast to it, you will never go astray. That is the book of Allah and the sunnah of His Prophet. Listen to my words, O people, for I have conveyed the message and understand it. Know for certain that every Muslim is a brother of another Muslim, and that all Muslims are brethren. It is not lawful for a person to take from his brother except that which he has given him willingly, so do not wrong yourselves. O Allah, have I not conveyed the message? Now, I just want to say that's Al-Dabari's version. In Ibn Ishaq's The Life of Muhammad, it actually translates to, women are like prisoners with you. Prisoners or domestic animals. Wow, what a charming final message to leave behind for womankind. It's no wonder then that the Hadith further cement this and support this notion by equating women to dogs and donkeys that nullify prayer. It's no wonder then that you can beat your wives the same way you would tame cattle. And it's no wonder then that Aisha said that believing women suffer the most. I'd like to ask all the feminists and self-respecting women out there a serious question. So I just want to get real for a hot minute. As a woman, do you feel okay being compared to a dog or a donkey? Genuinely. Would you want to be a prisoner to your husband or to the men in your family? No? How about a domestic animal? Does that lessen the blow? Because these are literally Muhammad's departing words to you as a Muslim woman. So here are the major differences, in case you hadn't noticed already, between the 2 versions of the sermons. Number 1. The authentic sermon obviously prescribes wife beating, which the sanitized sermon doesn't. Number 2, the authentic sermon describes women as domestic animals, whereas the fake version describes them as committed helpers and partners. The equality of mankind is not mentioned in the authentic sermon, but rather only the brotherhood of Muslims is described. Number 4, the Islamic pillars of 5 daily prayers, fasting, zakat, and hajj are not mentioned in the authentic sermon. Number 5, the declaration that no prophet or no new religion will come after Islam is not in the authentic sermon. Number 6, There is nothing in the authentic sermon that talks about passing his words on to others who will understand it better than those who directly heard the words from Muhammad. On a side note, I also want to point out that the language and terminology used in the fake sermon was not consistent with 7th century Arabia. First of all, black people were called slaves or abd, not blacks as they are in the sanitized version. Secondly, in the 7th century, Arabs did not use the word white to describe a race. Clearly, this fabricated version of Muhammad's final words was concocted to whitewash some of his earlier primitive commands and to falsely promote this sense of modern humanitarian values and to highlight Islam's 5 pillars, which were actually overlooked in the original Quran. So please don't have the wool pulled over your eyes by the retelling of Muhammad's fake final sermon. Also, just to anticipate the usual Muslim apologetics, if you want to really clutch at straws here and claim that al-Dabari is not authentic enough, then please take note that al-Dabari agrees with Ibn Majah 1851, which, as you can see, clearly says that women are like prisoners with you. This hadith actually, funnily enough, also mentions women's rights in Islam, something that Muslim feminists love to talk about, seeing as though Muhammad was clearly the first feminist. So let's see what rights women are endowed with in Islam according to this wonderful hadith. Oh, there we go. Clothing and food. Sorry, what does that remind you of? Oh, that's right, a glorified prisoner. Thank you, Islam, for laying my rights bare. I have a slight bone to pick with Allah and Muhammad with these rights that they've given us or dished out to us. Credit where credit is due, right? Shelter and food are all well and good. We all need them to survive. But Allah, as the creator of the entire universe, of the multiverse, if there's one out there, I think you kind of forgot some things like, I don't know, maybe... the right to divorce, the right to not be one of 4 wives, the right to not be a sex slave of a Muslim man, the right to not be married off as a child, cough cough Aisha, the right to not be cursed all night by non-existent angels if you refuse your husband's sex. I actually feel sorry for those angels that were delegated that task by Allah. What a deadbeat job, just like cursing someone all night. Anyway, what else? What else? Maybe it's asking a bit too much, maybe, but maybe the equal right to inheritance, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but the right to keep your children if you decide to remarry. I'm really pushing the boat out here now, aren't I? But how about the right to own your own body and express yourself how you choose without having the hijab forced on you? Could have been good. What else? The right to leave your house and travel without a male guardian. And before you tell me that that's un-Islamic, please go and look at the male guardianship system in Saudi and other countries in the Gulf and how that works against women. Also, what about the emotional needs and support and just the overall well-being of a woman? Clearly, Allah is just taking care of the lowest, the bottom of the pyramid, if you will, of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Allah is providing us with the most basic needs and nothing beyond that. Anyway, the list goes on as per usual, but you get the picture. In Islam, women are indeed prisoners or some type of domestic animal or just a physical body created purely for the pleasure of men. As you can see, it says, you have taken them only as a trust from Allah and have made the enjoyment of their persons lawful by the word of Allah. Does that sit right with you as a feminist, as a woman, as a self-respecting woman? Does that sound okay to you? For the enjoyment of their persons. That's what our worth is devalued to in Islam. Tabari also agrees with Sirat Rasulullah, page 651. 1, and of course Quran 434, as we mentioned. So it would be utterly ludicrous to argue that the jury is still out on this one in terms of the treatment of women. When Muslims tell you that Muhammad espoused universal equality, equal rights for women, and a perfected religion, they may obviously be quoting from the whitewashed final sermon of Muhammad, which is vastly, as you can see, vastly different from the original. By the way, all this talk of equality and humanity and brotherhood got me thinking. Let's see what Islam actually considers to be the best of creation and the best of mankind, like ever. This is clearly not a religion of peace. It's a concoction of lies maintained through sheer terror and fear, masqueraded as the truth under the guise of Arab imperialism and subservience. But please, don't just take my word for it. Go out there, compare these two texts yourselves, check the authenticity, and most importantly, please, please, please think for yourselves. Don't fall victim to the deception, particularly if Arabic isn't your first language and you rely on Islamic entities to give you authentic transcripts and translations. Look, they used to be able to hide the truth in plain sight, but now, thanks to the might of the internet, not anymore. They can't keep you in the dark, so set yourself free. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and it's kind of egged you on to do some research of your own and compare the texts and see for yourself, because I'm not making this up out of thin air, like it's all there. I always say that the Islamic sources themselves give away the reality of what Islam is. I hope this video has done just this much to add to that bank of knowledge, if you will. So yeah, thanks again, and until next time, peace and love everybody, and stay free. These videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone!